Good morning, Impression Hall. We're coming to you this Wednesday on the 12th day of November, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter to get to the stories matter today. Former DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan, who is currently linked to an investigation into anomalous flood control projects, has flown to the United States. The Bureau of Immigration confirmed his departure, saying he will be accompanying his wife for medical procedures until December 17. Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile is currently confined in the ICU due to pneumonia, a detail now confirmed by his daughter Katrina. Senator Jingo Estrada first disclosed the matter during yesterday's Senate session, where fellow lawmakers offered prayers for Enrile's recovery. And House Speaker Bogie D announced his support for the anti-political dynasty bill, urging fellow lawmakers to finally enact the decades-old constitutional mandate to define political dynasties. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first in the agenda, House Speaker Bogie D unveils a sweeping anti-corruption drive, including a proposal to create a stronger commission to investigate and prosecute anomalous infrastructure projects. Here is a report.
Former Public Works and Highways Secretary Manuel Bonoan, who is among those accused in the alleged flood control scam, has reportedly left the Philippines. According to the Department of Justice, Bonoan traveled to the United States to accompany his wife, who is undergoing a medical procedure. He is expected to stay there until December 17. The Bureau of Immigration confirmed that Bonoan departed for Taiwan on Tuesday before proceeding to the United States. Although Bonoan is included in the Immigration Lookout Bulletin order, authorities clarify that he does not have a whole departure order, which means he was legally allowed to leave the country. Meanwhile, amid mounting reports of corruption and ghost projects, House Speaker Bogie D declared,
"Sa harap ng mga ulat ng katiwalaan at ghost projects, hindi sapat ang galit. Kailangan natin ang solusyon."
As Congress resumed its session, Speaker D outlined a series of reforms aimed at fighting corruption, including a proposal to establish an independent commission against infrastructure corruption, described as a stronger version of the existing Independent Commission for Infrastructure created by President Bongbong Marcos.
Malinaw ang ating mensahe. There will be zero delays in the passage of this measure because our people have zero tolerance for corruption. We will pass this before we adjourn this December.
The aim, according to House leaders, is to empower the Commission to act swiftly and deliver justice without bureaucratic delay. ICI Executive Director Attorney Brian Keith Hosaka welcomed the proposal.
Welcome that any other additional powers granted to the ICI, or this time with the creation of a new commission, would be welcome because it will make the task more efficient and faster.
A lawyer has filed complaints before the Ombudsman in the Visayas against Cebu officials who went abroad while Typhoon Tino struck the province. The raps were slapped against Cebu Congressman Duke Frasco and 7 mayors: Alju Fernando Frasco of Liloan, Arvis Monleon of Catmon, Alfredo Arqueliano Jr. of San Francisco, Greman Solante of Tudela, Edgar Rama of Poro, Manuel Santiago of Pilar, and Felihur Quino of Compostela. Attorney Julito Anyora Jr. accused them of neglecting their duties during the calamity. Now, based on their travel authorities signed by Cebu Governor Pam Baricuatro, these officials were in Europe and London from October 30 to November 8. Meanwhile, Malacanang has left the matter to the Department of Interior and Local Government for appropriate action.
The failure of the local chief executives, the mayors, for example, to prepare before, during, and after the Typhoon Tino that have resulted to plenty of casualties, most specifically in the 5th District.
Hindi niya po gusto na mga liderato ay chill lang. So dapat ang trabaho ay para sa taong bayan. Kasi ang taong bayan umaasa po sa gobyerno, lalo na sa mga ganitong klaseng sitwasyon at kondisyon.
More people have been confirmed dead due to recent typhoons. According to the Office of Civil Defense, the death toll from Typhoon Tino has risen to 232. It also left 112 individuals missing and about 512 injured. Meanwhile, 25 people were killed in the aftermath of Super Typhoon 1. At least 29 individuals were injured, while 2 are still missing. Katrina Ponce Enrile, daughter of Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile, confirmed that her father is currently in the intensive care unit or the ICU due to pneumonia. Senator Jinggoy Estrada first revealed the matter during a Senate session yesterday where lawmakers offered prayers for Enrile. Estrada said he was informed by a reliable source that Enrile's condition is critical and that he has slim chances of surviving. A source also said that Enrile has been in the hospital now for several weeks. He reportedly underwent a CT scan and had a medical tube placed. Now, this is not the first time Enrile has been hospitalized due to pneumonia.
I have just received a very, very sad information that our former colleague, former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, is currently in the intensive care unit of an undisclosed hospital suffering from pneumonia. And I heard from a reliable source, a very, very reliable source, that he has slim chances of surviving. And I hope all of us here present can have a short prayer to be led by Senator Joel Villanueva.
Dakilang Diyos, amin pong idinadalangin at idinudulog sa iyo ang buhay ng isang aming colleague, mentor, Senate President, Senator Juan Ponce Enrile.
Recall that Juan Ponce Enrile faced serious health challenges in 2022, including hospitalizations for severe pneumonia in May and a subsequent COVID-19 infection in June. Despite these setbacks and acknowledged age-related issues like macular degeneration, he remained an active official in the Marcos administration. Enrile marked his 101st birthday in February of 2025, drawing praise for his remarkable longevity and continued commitment to public service. Now, his most recent public appearance was via video conference on October 24 for the Sandigan Bayan's promulgation of his graft case. And coming right up, let's talk about the anti-political dynasty bill now being pushed by House Speaker Boji D. Longtime advocate Representative Edgar Erice will join us. When Morning Matters returns, keep it here. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Juan here on Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. House Speaker Boji D has announced his support for the passage of the anti-political dynasty bill. D urged his fellow lawmakers to finally pass a law defining political dynasties as mandated by the Constitution decades ago. The move has drawn attention since his own family is among the most established political dynasties in Isabela.
Alam ko pong maraming magtataas ng kilay sa usaping ito. Hindi ko po itinatanggi sapagkat naniniwala ko na ang paglilingkod ay hindi minamana, kundi ipinagkakatiwala ng taong bayan. Ang layuning ito ay hindi upang hadlangan ang sinuman, kundi upang palawakin ang pagkakataon para sa mas maraming Pilipino na makakapaglingkod at makibahagi sa pamahalaan.
And joining us now is Caloocan Representative and Senior Deputy Minority Leader Edgar Erice, one of the longtime advocates of an anti-political dynasty law. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning sa mga listeners ng iyong program.
In the middle of this crackdown on corruption at sa gitna po ng panawagan ng taong bayan na mas mapabilis ang ang gulong ng hustisya. Ito po ang isa sa mga sinusulong ng Speaker, yung Anti-Political Dynasty Bill. Given that he has about 16 relatives in government, do you believe this call? Do you believe this push? Because also of the reality surrounding how this could actually go through and pass through the House. Your thoughts?
Well, I've been fighting political dynasties for more than 40 years. This is my 5th term in Congress at ito na rin yung panlimang ulit kong sinusumite yung anti-political dynasty bill sa Kongreso. Pero ngayon lang may isang speaker na sumuporta. So, I have high hopes on Speaker Boji. Nagkausap kami, minsan sinabi ko nga sa kanya na ang solution sa problema natin talaga ay political reforms. At ang pinaka ugat ng korupsyon dito sa ating bansa ay yung papataba na political dynasties. Of course, there are good political dynasties, pero they are more of an exception rather than the rule. Kasi sabi ko nga, I've been fighting in my city. I fought for political dynasties. Buti nga, buhay pa ako. Pero talagang pag nag-establish na, yung iba nag-umpisa sila, they will fight political dynasties, pero pag naupo na sila, they will establish their own political dynasties kasi power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Kaya ngayon, nangyari, positions are inherited, not earned. Yan yung isang pinakamalaking problema. Mag-aama, mag-aasawa, magkakapatid, sila-sila na lang. Pagka ganyan, wala nang check and balance. Paano mo imbestigahan yung kadugo mo?
Oo nga ho, pero why do you believe, do you believe that the Speaker could push through with this, knowing that he is closely associated to the former Speaker and to many other leaders who have been produced of political dynasties? Isn't this just a gesture that, is a popular move, a populist move?
You cannot fool the people Kaya, especially now, kasi alam mo, we are in a deep political crisis. Not just political crisis, economic and moral crisis. We are near collapse. And ano yung solutions? Ano ba? Military junta, di lalong magiging unstable yung government natin. Yung Chacha, wala na yan dahil malapit na eleksyon, it will be more of a suspect. Then, kung papalit naman si BP Sara kay BBM, mag-resign si BBM, yung panawagan na ganyan, ano mangyayari? Maghihigantihan lang. Wala rin namang mababago sa sistema. Magbabalimbingan lang yung mga dynasties. So, ang solution talaga, political reforms. At naniniwala ako kay Speaker Boji dahil kahapon, mabilis na gumulong yung aming bill ni Senator Laila De Lima, yung creation of an independent commission against corruption in infrastructure. So we hope na before the end of the session, before the Christmas break, matatapos namin yung ICI. So it seems na talagang sincere si Speaker Boji. Alam mo, napag-alaman ko na dahil nakasama ko na si Speaker Boji nung 2001 to 2004 Congress. Napag-alaman ko sa mga mutual friends namin na talagang nito nakaraang elections, ayaw niya na tumakbo. Pinipilit lang siya ng kanyang mga supporters sa Isabela. Gusto niya na lang nandun sa Isabela. Pero ang nangyari, tumakbo siya, nanalo siya. Ngayon, naging speaker pa. So maybe meron siyang pwedeng gawin sa ngayon na isulong yung mga political reforms. Not just the anti-political dynasty bill, but also yung law against turncoatism at yung campaign finance reform. Siguro ito yung pwedeng kapalit ng kasalanan ng Kongreso sa mamamayan dun sa nangyaring corruption sa flood control, palagay ko dapat ipalit dito yung talagang genuine political reforms that will have a lasting effect rather than sabi, magpakulong, okay yan, pero dapat due process. Pero dapat political reforms, yun ang dapat. Yun ang madali. Kung gugustuhin namin, kaya-kaya na namin. Yung Chacha, matagal yan, maproseso. Within the framework of the 1987 Constitution, magagawa namin dito mga political reforms dito.
Siguro po ang pinaka magiging komplikado po dito no in terms of pursuing an anti-political dynasty bill and defining political dynasties yung finding out what makes a good political dynasty and what makes a bad political dynasty. How would you define ano po ba dapat
ang definition ko lang
dito?
Sa aking bill, I've been debating with lawmakers for such a long time regarding this political dynasty. Sinasabi ko sa kanila, yung immediate family. Dapat talaga at least third degree, yung asawa, kapatid, anak, apo, hindi dapat. Kasi sabi nga nila, paano kung magkakaaway, maglalaban, pagka yung pamilya mo immediate, hindi mo kaya na pamunuan, wala kang karapatan para mamuno sa pamilya natin.
Third degree ho, ano ibig sabihin hanggang saan po yun? First,
kapatid,
cousin? Kapatid. First degree?
Grandfather, father, asawa, kapatid, anak, apo.
Ganun lang ho. Pero yung
mga pinsan, I submit na yung mga pinsan, hindi talaga kontrolado yan So,
so within the line, the family line lang ho?
Yes.
Oo, pero ang dami pong gano'n, no? Parang minamana-mana ho, lalong-lalo na. Sa local government po natin, yun po ang nature. I mean, if you take a look at Philippine history, hindi lang po siya because the system allows it to thrive, but culturally, parang yan po ang makeup ng mga clans, mga big families in power before long before the Philippine Constitution was formed. Nandiyan na po sa kultura po natin yung ganyan. Paano po kaya? I mean, outright pagbabawalan ho yung anak hanggang sa apo, na magkakasabay? Pagka may umalis, paano po yun? I mean, how would you describe the ideal
magkakasabay? Para sa akin,
hindi pwede
magkakasabay. Pero yung may papalit, okay lang naman yun. Kasi at least kung isa lang naman, hindi okay pa rin yun.
Kung ipapamana, pwede ho.
Problema kasi kung monopolize yung political power sa isang probinsya, wala nang check and balance. So, yun ang pinaka-importante. At nawawala ng chance yung mga magagaling natin, lalo na yung mga kabataan, kasi they will be discouraged because of the machinery of political dynasties na ang ginagamit yung salapi ng bayan.
Paano ho kung ibang ahensya? For example, what are the parameters of that anti-political dynasty bill? I mean, kung ito po ay nasa executive branch, yung iba ay nasa legislatura, or is that across government?
The political dynasty, the anti-political dynasty bill pertains to elective positions. Elective positions. Although, of course, there will be debates on this. Dapat maaaring ang argument ng iba, pwede naman yung iba isa sa executive, isa sa legislative, basta isa lang, parang gano'n. So, at least maiwasan natin yung papataba na political dynasties. At palagay ko, ito yung pinaka main reason ng corruption. Kung dominated ng iisang pamilya yung gobyerno.
Okay. What was the feedback from your colleagues in Congress? I mean, how did they respond to the speaker's speech? Was there agreement, indifference, or hostility? Well,
wala namang hostility kasi nakita ko ngayon sa Kongreso yung nangyari na itong flood control mess na ito talagang tinamaan din lahat ng congressman. For example, bibigyan kita ng example, Gretchen. nagpunta ako sa isang wake ng former classmate ko nung high school. Hindi naman dito sa distrito ko. Pinakilala ako. Sabi sa akin, ito yung kakaklase kong congressman. Hindi corrupt to, ah. So, may ganun ang
may nakadikit na ho na stigma.
So, dapat talaga linisin namin yung hanay namin. Linisin namin yun. And one way of cleaning the mess is providing for political reforms. Ito yung bayad namin sa mga mamamayan.
Okay. So do you think, I mean, we have enough political wind? I mean, the winds are in favor of pushing the anti-political dynasty bill at this time.
It will be hard.
It
will still be hard, Gretchen. Pero naniniwala ako na dapat manguna rito si Presidente Bongbong Marcos. Alam mo, napakalaki na utang na loob ng pamilya niya sa mamamayang Pilipino. After the 20 years rule of his father, binigyan pa rin siya ng chance ngayon. At sinabi niya, mahiya naman kayo sa nangyayaring korupsyon. At ang ugat, punot dulo na malaki ng korupsyon ay political dynasties. Palagay ko, dapat tularan niya si Speaker Bo GT against family interests ay ilagay niya na sa legislative agenda niya yung anti-political dynasty. Even Vice President Sara. Ngayon, parang aso't pusa sila nag-aaway. They run under a platform of unity. Ngayon, yung bawat kampo nila, yan yung nakikitang ehemplo ng mga kabataan. Siguro they owe it to the people na magkaisa sila for political reforms.
Actually, pag tinignan niyo ho yung pamilya ng presidente at vice-presidente, doon pa lang parang magkakaproblema na ho. Kasi si President Marcos, kapatid niya, si Senator Amy Marcos, and paano po yan, magtatalo po sila kung sino mananatili sa gobyerno. Si vice-presidente rin, ganun din po, yung kapatid niya na mayor at congressman. Paano ho yun?
Yan nga po ang hamon ko kay Presidente at kay Vice President. Sadya bang mahal niyo yung bayan o naglalaban lang kayo for political supremacy? Ganun din sa mga senador. Di ba? Nakita naman natin na magkakapatid, mag-aama, mag-iina, nandiyan na lahat. Para bang wala nang magaling na Pilipino. Parang sila na lang. Tapos makikita naman natin na they're using their positions para sa kanilang mga vested business interests.
Sana nga ho, ito po ay maisulong na at maging tamang panahon given the call of the times.
Finally, it is the responsibility of the people na talagang i-demand ito sa gobyerno. Makapasama na rin dito, dapat huwag mo na kayong bumoto. Huwag na kayong magpagago sa mga political dynasties. Ito na kayo ng tama.
Na talagang kalampagin ang mga kawani ng gobyerno. Moving on.
There's a trillion march on November 30, di ba? May mga, instead of just asking for heads ng mga corrupt, mas permanente itong paghingi ng anti-political dynasty, anti-third cultism, campaign finance reform. Tapos yung independent commission na mag-iimbestiga. Kasi para sa akin, itong ICI in its present state, it cannot hindi nito kaya na yung mga manipulations and influence ng mga allies ng presidente, baka nga may kamag-anak pa, hindi kaya itong yung they cannot withstand.
So sa palagay niyo ho, mahina itong yung ICI? Mahina po yung current ICI?
Sobrang walang pangil yung ICI. That's why even the members of the ICI, even the Attorney Hosaka has expressed na dapat talaga may mga powers na maibigay sa kanilang Kongreso.
Speaking of mahina in terms of what it can do,
walang content
do you agree with the composition of the body? O kailangan po ba maging appointed ito o maging...
It should be funded by the national government. May sariling tao, may contempt powers, sa PIN powers, at dapat bigyan sila ng karapatan for yung sa whole departure order, makapag-issue ng whole departure order, buksan yung mga records ng Commission on Audit, ng mga agencies, even the ledgers and financial statements of contractors. Ito yung nakalagay lahat dun sa proposal namin. And yung first hearing kahapon, tomorrow, magkakaroon kami ng second hearing. Hopefully, ipadala namin next week sa plenary for second reading.
Pero in terms of the composition of the commission, do you think that there should be a new body that isn't appointed by the president to at least ensure fairness in the investigations?
Of course, ang presidente naman talaga mag-a-appoint kahit na dito sa legislated na ICI. Presidente talaga, siya yung may kapangyarihan para mag-appoint ng mga miyembro nito, chairman nito. Pero meron kaming ginawang parameters at ginawa namin 5. May mga representatives, for example, yung mga non-government organizations, civil society. Ako nga, may proposal na there should be a former legislator para mag-guide ang ICI on the process of budget authorization. Na talaga namang dito nangyari yung dito yung infrastructure corruption dahil unprecedented for in the 19th Congress na there were 1.45 trillion of insertions, diversions, and amendments. Irregular yung ganyang kalaki dahil I've been in Congress for quite some time. Noong panahon ni Pinoy, 1 billion nga lang yung medyo mapalitan, nagwawala na si Pinoy, nagagalit na dahil ito yung President's budget. It's not a congressional budget. Dapat kami nag-authorize lang. At hindi ba iwasan yung insertions, pero hindi ganitong kalaking magnitude.
Okay. And speaking of the rallies, the upcoming rallies this coming November 30, at meron pa po this coming weekend.
Yes.
Sabi nga ho na by the INC, what do you expect to happen? I mean, meron po mga nilabas na mga pangalan na maaari daw o binabantayan ng gobyerno ngayon na maaaring mag-lead to some sort of coup d'etat. I mean, what are your thoughts about the upcoming rallies?
Well, yung expression lang ng disgust because of this corruption and seeming mismanagement, palagay ko, okay lang yun. Talagang karapatan natin ito. Pero mag-isip tayo kung meron mga extra constitutional na moves or efforts kasi walang mangyayari sa bayan natin, magiging banana republic lang tayo. We have to give to the president yung kanyang term up to 2028. Then mag-election na lang tayo. Pero before the elections, dapat siguro ang commitment dapat ng presidente yung political reforms para hindi na maulit itong mangyayari na ito.
Pero sa inyong pagkakarinig, credible ho kaya yung mga rumors of destabilization plot and calls for withdrawal of support amongst the military? Meron po ba kayong narinig tungkol doon?
Marami ng chismis pero ayaw ko na idagdag. Yung makabi ko nga sa mga chismis. Dapat, for example, si Yusek Castro, kaysa makadagdag siya sa mga kaguluhan, mga kalituhan, kung ano na lang yung tamang information, dapat yun na lang. Wala na yung mga chismis, mga insinuations.
Pero kahapon nandito po si Chavit Singson, na doon po sa The Big Story, isa po naming programa. Sabi po niya, he was openly calling on the president to resign and to be replaced by a caretaker government known as a council or a junta. At sabi po niya, tsaka na lang, kumbaga parang maghalal ulit ng isa pang o bagong pinuno. I mean, ano pong thoughts niyo doon? Hindi po ba medyo bordering on sedition na ho yun?
Hindi, kaya nga, who is Chavit Singson to dictate to the people? He's not even an elected official. So, dapat siguro, tingnan natin yung long-term na kalagayan ng bansa natin. Huwag naman tayo maging banana republic. We should, yung calling for the resignation, hindi naman seditious yan, yung opinion niya, pero yung calling for a junta, tingin ko hindi tama yun dahil may process naman tayo. Magre-resign yung presidente, may vice president. Pero just the same, kung magre-resign yung nung nakaraan, kung tatandaan nyo, nung nag-resign nung declare na resign si Presidente Erap, tapos si GMA naging presidente, day one, ano na kagad gulo na kagad. Yan yung mangyayari. Especially now, napakabilis ng panahon natin. Magkano na ang dollars natin? Ano na yata? Almost 60. Yung lahat ng foreign investment natin na-establish ni Pinoy. About $7 billion US dollars during his time. Yung net inflow. Ngayon, outflow, 7 billion. Wipe out lahat. Nakita naman natin ang PSA, 5,600 base points. Lowest since the pandemic. So nandiyan na lahat nung huwag naman nating dagdagan pa yung economic crisis. Kawawa yung mga ang magsasuffer naman ito, hindi yung mga may ingay dyan na mga politiko, kundi yung mga walang kalaban-laban.
Okay. Bilang panghuli, Congressman, wala po bang posibilidad na yung flood control probe ay mabuksan muli sa House of Representatives, given na marami pa pong anggulo dito, hindi lang po yung ating kumbaga the role of our lawmakers in it, meron din po tayong side ng COA, meron po tayong side ng DPWH, side ng kung paano ma-empower ang LGU. Hindi po ba titignan niya ng Kongreso muli? Wala na po ba tsansa?
Hindi, ang aming position dyan, we cannot investigate ourselves. Imagine, naggaling sa amin yung mga insertions, diversions, amendments in the 19th Congress. At almost majority ng mga representatives ngayon came from the 19th Congress. So, mahirap naman, parang baka maging self-serving investigation. I'd rather defer to the ICI or sa Blue Ribbon, although sa Blue Ribbon naman
so also
pero in 2025 GAA natin meron 142 billion pesos na insertions yung mga senador.
Bakit po kaya ng Senado at hindi po kaya ng congressman?
Well, siguro kasi yung Senate President at yung Chairman of Blue Ribbon Committee were not members of the
Okay. Loud and clear. Okay. Maraming salamat po for answering our questions today and for helping us understand the latest from the House of Representatives. We have Caloocan Representative and Senior Deputy Minority Leader Edgar Erice.
Thank you.
Coming right up, let's get the latest updates on the effect of Typhoon Uwan on the Cagayan province with Governor or Vice Governor Manuel Mamba. More on that when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. Typhoon Uwan left severe damage in Tuwao, Cagayan after the Chico River overflowed from heavy rainfall. Homes in Barangquag, Mungo, and Batung were destroyed as floodwaters carried drifting logs. Now, despite the destruction, officials reported no casualties and residents near the river were quickly evacuated. Vice Governor Manuel Mamba appealed to the national government for a flood control program in the hardest hit areas. He explained that water from Kalinga and Mountain Province caused the Chico River to overflow, triggering the floods. Mamba also urged the public to protect the environment, warning that cutting trees in the mountains worsens flash floods. And joining us now to give us the latest updates on Cagayan, we have Vice Governor Manuel Mamba. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Welcome to Morning Matters. Vice Gov? Mukhang medyo naghang ang kanyang Zoom. We'll get back to the Vice Governor. In the meantime, Mon Tulfo has stirred controversy after naming several prominent political figures allegedly involved in efforts to destabilize the Marcos administration. But those mentioned in Tulfo's post were quick to deny the allegations. Here's a report.
Former broadcaster Mon Tulfo has named several prominent political figures supposedly behind efforts to destabilize the Marcos administration. Among those Tulfo named in his Facebook post last November 10 were some retired military generals, Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong, lawyers Ferdinand Topacio and Vic Rodriguez, former Congressman Mike Defensor, former Ilocos Sur Governor Chavit Singson, and Senator Rodante Marcoleta. Tulfo also claimed that Vice President Sara Duterte, her brother Davao City Congressman Pulong Duterte, and Singson were among the supposed financiers of the alleged coup plot. Tulfo, however, offered no evidence to back his claims and refused to reveal his source, saying only that the information came from a reliable informant. The Vice President has dismissed the allegations as mere rumors.
Kung napapansin nyo, ako ay hindi talaga ako nagbibigay ng mga aligasyon kung wala akong ebidensya, no? So, yung mga ganyan, kapag meron kang aligasyon, wala kang ebidensya, ang tawag dyan ay chismis o ang tawag sa iyo ay chismosa.
Congressman Pulong meanwhile has slammed as mere imagination the insider list posted by Tulfo. In an interview with Storycon, Defensor said that while he will participate in the upcoming anti-corruption rallies before November 30, he is not involved in any political withdrawal of support or other destabilization plans.
Totoo na dun sa pag-organize ng rally, kasama ako dyan. Pero yung sasabing distab, hindi ako kasama dyan. Kinonvene namin yung People's Coalition, andun yung UPI, si General Pokis nandun, si Greco Belica naman from the People's Council. So, tulong-tulong lang ma'am kung ano yung mga kailangan. Yung iba sa program, yung iba sa logistics, yung iba sa sound and stage. So, ambag-ambag lang.
Singson also told the big story that he is not involved in the reported coup plot. He also claimed that one or two individuals on Tulfo's list have already been paid and are considered insiders for the administration.
Panakot nila ito sa mga tao. Walang katotohanan.
Mayor Magalong also rejected attempts to link him to the alleged plot, calling the claims baseless and harmful to national unity. He added that as former police officer and now public servant, his loyalty is to the Republic and the people, and not to any political faction or personality. Meanwhile, Malacanang confirmed that the Armed Forces Intelligence Community is verifying reports of an alleged destabilization effort. Press Officer Claire Castro urged the public to be cautious about unverified information circulating on social media.
Hindi naman po ibig sabihin na nasabi sa social media ito ay agad na dapat paniwalaan. So kailangan po nilang i-validate at sa ngayon po ayon sa AFP, nasa intelligence community na po yan. Kung meron sila makikitang dapat na talagang pagtuunan ng pansin, ito naman po ay hindi tutulugan ng ating Pangulo.
And joining us now on the show, we have Cagayan Vice Governor Manuel Mamba. Magandang umaga po, Vice Gov.
Ay, magandang umaga rin, Gretchen. Magandang umaga rin po sa lahat ng nakikinig at mga viewers natin.
And there you go, we hear you loud and clear. Una-una ho, no? Kamusta ho yung mga pagbaha na idinulot ng mga dam dyan sa Cagayan? Ano po ang estado ng mga barangay na kalapit po ng mga river?
Well, ngayon, no, maganda na yung weather at kahit paano, naibsan naman na yung, especially in Tuao, no, I'm talking about my town, because this is my town na talagang affected because of the Chico River. Kaya lang, talagang nagdulot ng napakaraming damages, especially on the houses ng mga tao at mga livelihood po nila. So we will have to recover from this, at meron pa rin po kami mga evacuees, no? From 900, still have more than 50 today doon. Yung mga iba nagbalikan na, pero karamihan sa kanila walang mababalikan ng mga bahay na. Dahil talagang nasira yung mga bahay nila in the area because of the rampaging water coming from Kalinga na tumama po dito sa town namin.
Ano po yung town ho ninyo at ilan pong mga barangay ang apektado?
Ang apektado talaga dito na talagang 4 barangays. The town of Tuao, Cagayan, no? In the foot of the Cordilleras. No? At ang pinaka-damage dito sa amin is yung pagkasira ng mga bahay dahil kasama dun sa mga tubig ay mga troso, no? Ay so yun, mga tumama dun sa mga bahay-bahay, so nagkasira-sira yung mga bahay dito. Although we have this, no, in the past, no, pero it's not as destructive as sa ngayon. Na may tsaka talagang ito na yung pinaka-worst na tumama dito. So nasira yung mga bahay nila, pati eskwela, nasira yung provincial road din, bisecting the barangay ay halos masira din ito. And this could have been, kasi ang ko lang kasi dito, ito dapat ang mga priority na nalalagyan naman ng flood control sana ng Maguilo. And this was never prioritized, and I hope that the national government makikita na ito dahil savable pa naman yung barangay. We could still save it, no, by redirecting yung mga tubig na ito. But we need the national government and we need some form of planning kasi ito kasi is a no, kung tutuusin, inter-regional boundary na ito between CAR and Region 2. No? So, minsan hindi na pinapansin pero hindi nila nakikita how damaging the Chico River when it comes down from the mountains, no, from the mountain areas, pumupunta dito sa atin, sa valley natin. So these are, sana po makita ng national government ito at ma-prioritize at sana hindi na ma-politicize, no, na porque hindi sila nananalo dito sa town namin ay wala talaga.
Okay.
Ginagawa po dito.
Vice Gov, ano po yung nakikita niyong possible rerouting ng daloy nitong Chico River? Meron po kayong na mapa na posibleng pwedeng pagdaluyan ng tubig?
Nandun na, kaya lang heavily silted na kasi ito. Kaya pag dumadating yung tubig, it spreads out, no? Nagsiswell talaga. It used to be about 200 meters lang. Now it's more than 2 kilometers in width dahil silted na nga yung Chico River. And this happened for the entire province. But ang point ko dito is with the help of yung mga flood control na yan, kasi dike naman ito, hindi naman dam mo ito mga to, dike lang naman ito. So pag nag-build ka ng matinong dike, mariredirect mo naman yung tubig sa totoo lang. So sana ganun po yung gawin nila kasi masisave mo. Kasi these are prime lots, no? These are irrigated yung namin dito, yung mga sakahan namin, yung mga bahay, mga gandang bahay, pero nasira po lahat ito. No, through the years, no, it has always been ganito. Hindi man lang nakita of the national government. When I was mayor in 1980s and 90s, ginawan ko na ito. Kaya lang, nasira na rin dahil wear and tear naman ng mga nagawa namin noon. Ang ginawa lang namin kasi noon, yung bato-bato lang na nailagay lang sa screen na ewan ko anong tawag nila dun sa engineering. So, sana malagyan nila ito ng totoong concrete na piles, mga piling at lahat dito. And sa tingin ko, it will serve its purpose kung matino ang pagkagawa.
O ibig sabihin ho, dun sa trilyon na pondo sa flood control, wala pong napunta dyan sa Cagayan para po dito. This is one of the major river basins that we have.
Meron. Kaya lang, doesn't serve its purpose. Ewan ko kung may nalagay dito, kaya lang baka ghost. Kaya wala kami nakikita.
Oo, kasi alam po natin, notorious po yung dyan sa Cagayan, no? Lagi po kayo nababalitaan na binabaha. At hindi lang po dyan sa may Chico River. Actually, yung Magat Dam din po, no? Binuksan po yung 7 spillways. Ano naman po lagay doon? Pati ho sa may Tugigaraw.
Well, yung Tugigaraw, nakita nyo, klinos pa yung Buntun Bridge. Wala pa namang replacement yun. No? At nakita rin naman natin, no, na this yearly occurrence na po ito, no, and science-based din po na mula nung 2010 nung tumakbo akong governor, sigaw-sigaw ko na yan that our province, no, is identified as the most vulnerable province sa disaster, no, in the entire world, not only in the Philippines, in the entire world, because we are a valley. Lahat ng tubig ng buong region of the Cagayan River Basin ay pumupunta po sa amin. Kaya it has always been ganun po. No? When I was governor for 9 years, wala na rin po ako ginawa kundi mag-save ng mga tao. At I've been shouting about this since time immemorial. But when corruption sets in, wala ko. Ganun ka lang. At dati mga dike road yung pinagkagawa nila sa Tugigaraw, it didn't work. It didn't work. So, what should we do about this? Dapat siguro po, the national government in conjunction with the local government. Kasi, kung nangyayari po kasi, yung mga development councils, no, katulad ng municipal, provincial development councils, and even the regional development councils, hindi na po kumukuha dun yung pinopondohan nila. The councils should be part of the development kasi kami yung nakakaalam po dito sa babae kung ano yung mga problema. And yet, they bypass us. So, ako yung nag-congressman naman po ng 12 years and it has never been like that. No. Lahat po no, kahit basta major na fund po, more than 1 billion na project na yan, huwag lang nila ata-ataduhin. It has to go through the board chaired by the president. So lahat po yan, may feasibility study, may kwan.
Kung kayo po yung naging congressman, hindi nyo po hindi po kayo nakakuha ng pondo noong time po ninyo?
Wala naman kami pondo doon. 70 million lang kami noon. 30 million na 40 million. Yun yung CDF noon na it was declared illegal. Kaso ngayon, billion na yung bawat distrito. It's put into the hands of congressmen who do not even consult yung regional development councils. Ang point natin dito is it has to go through the councils para dun sila magkakal. Dun sila kukuha ng popondohan nila. And when it involves more than something, it has to go through proper studies, including feasibility studies. Hindi ho pwede yung kung ano yung gusto nila, yun na yun. Hindi sa po they might castigate me by saying all of these things, but we've learned a lot, from all of these things through the years. I've been in politics for the last 40 years. I've been in Congress for 12 years. Ang minamanage lang namin doon na ina-identify namin is 70 million. But most of the funds is in the hands of the DPWH, and it has to go through the councils also, including the NETA board. And this is being chaired by the president. So yun lang po, ngayon wala nang ganun. Kung ano yung gusto lang nilang pondohan nila sa Congress without consultation, without anything. You could not even get hindi ka man lang makakuha ng mga papeles sa DPWH. And kahit yung control dyan sa bidding nila, they are just for themselves. Kung merong papasok na iba, i-disqualify nila. No, so
Vice
all
Gov,
of this
it seems like the perfect time to beat the drum on this, knowing na dito na po yung atensyon ng taong bayan at dapat nga po silipin din nga po ang flood control measures dyan po sa may probinsya po ninyo. But we don't have a lot of time. I guess, bilang panghuli, your call, ano pong kailangan po ng probinsya po ninyo?
sa amin, attention, ang international government.
It looks like we're getting the Vice Governor a little bit choppy in on there. Ano? Okay, maraming salamat ho, Vice Gov. Hindi na po namin kayo masyadong marinig. Pero your advisory a while ago was loud and clear. Flood control measures needed here in Cagayan Province, particularly in the areas surrounding the Chico River, with water flowing from the Cordillera region heading on to the Cagayan Valley. Okay, maraming salamat po, Vice Governor Manuel Mamba of Cagayan. At this point, let's check on the aftermath of Typhoon Uwan in Camarines Sur and Albay. We have Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos joining us on the ground. Arles, kamusta ang sitwasyon dyan? Mukhang maaraw na?
Gretchen, maaraw na dito sa lalawigan ng Albay, no? Partikular dito sa Legazpi City, kung saan makikita nyo sa likuran ko. Marami na mga sasakyan, no? At marami na rin mga magagawa ang balik sa kanilang mga trabaho. Maging yung ilang mga paaralan nagbalik eskwela na rin, no? Pero marami pa rin sa mga sa mga lalawigan dito, sa mga munisipalidad rather, at mga barangay ang wala pa rin klase dahil yung iba ay apektado ng kawalan pa rin ng kuryente at kawalan ng tubig. Yung iba naman ng mga paaralan apektado na pinsala ang mga silid-aralan na ginagamit ng mga kabataan at kailangan pa raw na suriin ito ng mga eksperto at ng otoridad nang sa gayon masiguro yung kaligtasan ng publiko, no? Pero kahapon, Gretchen, ay isa sa ilalim nga raw sa state of calamity ang buong lalawigan ng Albay dahil sa natamo nito na malawakang pagbaha at ilang mga pinsala sa agrikultura, kabahayan at iba pang infrastruktura, no? Sang-ayon na din sa rekomendasyon ng Albay Public Safety and Emergency Management Office o APSEMO nilang tinatawag. Nagkaroon din tayo ng pagkakataon, Gretchen, na mabisita ang Camarines Sur kahapon, partikular ang Milaor kung saan 20 mga barangay yung nalubog sa baha. Bunso nitong super bagyong Uwan. Nakakita tayo ng mga residente na nagbabangka doon sa kanilang barangay, no? Dahil yung pagbaha 4 na araw nang hindi humuhupa at nung pagbalik nila matapos itong super ulan may ilang mga bahagi ng kanilang tahanan ang hindi nila mapakinabangan. Yun sa kanila 2 beses daw sa isang taon nilang nararanasan ng pagbaha, pero ito daw pagkakataon na to forced evacuation na din sila para maiwasan yung magkaroon man ng casualty doon sa kanilang lugar. Pati ang mga palayan ay patuloy ding naapektuhan, ekta-ektarya ng mga palayan ang tila naging palaisdaan at tila 2 buwan pa bago humupa ito. Kaya naman yung ating nakausap na magsasaka problemado kung paano babayaran ang kanyang utang para doon sa mga palay na katatanim pa lamang ng mga binti. Gretchen.
Ayun, ang mga medyo malungkot na balita rito ay yung impact ng bagyo ay hindi lamang sa pagbaha, kundi sa kabuhayan ng mga tao dyan. Sana nga makatulong itong pagdeklara ng state of calamity dyan sa Albay. Hindi ko lang sigurado na kamusta ng ating cameraman na si Mac Ortiz. Hindi ko sigurado kung ikaw yung gusto ko makita o siya Joke lang. Okay, yan ang ating hardworking at masipag na si Arles de los Santos. Siyempre, bilang marami tayong programa rito, ay kailangan din ng maghati ng ating minamahal na cameraman. Maraming salamat for giving us the latest from Albay. It looks like it is sunny already over there, but the challenges continue for that province. Maraming salamat. We have Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.